Hello everyone, and welcome along to the stream tonight. Hopefully we'll get off to a better start this week than we did on Friday. At the very least, the chat seems to be working. That wasn't working last week, so let's work on the premise that it's gonna continue to work. You'll notice my test message from earlier when I was actually just testing. Okay. So, what are we going to talk about tonight? So the long and the short of it is I didn't necessarily have a topic for tonight's stream. I didn't know what I was going to do. But Maurice in the chat room has asked me a couple of times about the topic of today's stream. So the topic of today's stream is Chocolatey packages of the type templates and extensions. And what I'm basically going to try and do is to talk about it and show what they are, how they can be used, and why you would want to use them. Okay? So I'm assuming that is the kind of the high level thing that you wanted, Maurice. If not, feel free to ask questions and I can diverge off onto any questions that come up. But yeah, let's start at the beginning. So if I go over here and I do a Chocolist local only, then what this is going to show me is all of the Chocolatey packages that I have installed. So this is what most people think about when they think about Chocolatey. They think about using Chocolatey to install an underlying application, whether that is Visual Studio Code, whether that is Visual Studio, whether that is Office, whatever. Okay? Now, ultimately, when you do a Choco install, what happens under the hood in this C program data Chocolatey folder, which is the default location of all things Chocolatey, what ends up happening is that a new folder will be created in that lib folder. So in this lib folder, if I go to medium icons here, we will see a folder that corresponds to each entry in the Chocolist local only. Okay, so at high level, when you do Chocolist local only, let me start again. When you do a Choco install Chocolatey GUI, as an example, it will reach out to whatever source you have configured. It'll download the nupkeg. It'll extract that nupkeg, and what we'll see in this folder is the nupkeg itself. So let's make this a view as well. We will see... Come on. Why is that not wanting to click that? Work with me here. There we go. It'll download that nupkeg. It'll extract the contents, which in this case is just a chocoinstall.ps1. And it will run those commands within that chocoinstall.ps1, and ultimately Chocolatey GUI will be installed. But the way that Chocolatey knows that that particular package is installed is the presence of this folder, and the presence of the files within that folder is what says to Chocolatey GUI is installed, right? Now, the reason that I bring this up is because this is what most people think about when we think about what a Chocolatey package is. It is a package that will install something, whether that is an MSI, an exe, a zip file, to place files on the file system. It will do something along those lines, okay? Now, when we talk about an extension package, initially we're talking about the same thing. So as an example of that, if we look at this folder here, this is the Chocolatey VS Code extension package. Now, this is one that it was a kind of a combination, I think. Kim, you can keep it right here. This particular extension was a combination of work between Kim and Pascal, another Chocolatey community member. So they created this Chocolatey VS Code extension package. Now, at its heart, it is a nupkeg. So we'll look at this nupkeg, we'll go in here, and there's a nupkeg. Chocolatey, when we were told to install it, reached out to the internet, downloaded that nupkeg, extracted that nupkeg, and put some files on the file system. So if we go into this extensions folder here, we'll see some stuff, right? Now, the reason that this particular package is slightly different is that in addition to extracting itself into the lib folder, if we go up a level, then we'll find that there's an extensions folder, right? And in this extensions folder, we'll find another entry for Chocolatey VS Code, right? Now in there, we will find, if we make this slightly bigger again, we will find a few files. Let's go in there again and go into here. We'll find a few files. One is a PowerShell module, a PSM1 file. And that PSM1 file also has two other files associated with it, and these are just functions, right? So this one is called Install VS Code Extension, and this one is called Uninstall VS Code Extension. Now, the reason that's important is because once those files are in that extensions folder, then every time Chocolatey executes, it will export all of the members that are defined in that PowerShell module into the current context, meaning that within my Chocolatey install.ps1 or within my Chocolatey uninstall.ps1, I will be able to make use of the functions that are exported by that module, right? So to say that slightly differently and to kind of see that in action, if we go over to here where we look at the source code for this extension, so this extension is created and maintained in the Chocolatey community Chocolatey core team package repository. So anyone can go and look at the source code. It's all there. It's all free. Grab it. Have a look at it. So this PSM1 file is I'm not in the right one. Sorry. It's this one I wanted to look at. If I go into the extensions folder and look at that PSM1 file, then we'll see that there's kind of some scary looking PowerShell code there. But essentially all that's doing is, and you could copy and paste this code. This part of it is not specific to anything else. This is literally saying, for all of the files that are in this folder, find me all of the ones that are with capital letters, so they're indicated that there are public functions, and how about you export them as part of this module. So make those functions available to whoever imported the module, right? So then if we look at the actual, one of the actual files, so install VS Code extension, so there's some context-based help there, then there's a function, it's doing some stuff, and the heart of this function is it actually wants to install a VS Code extension. So here we are, down at the bottom here, we are running the VS Code itself, which is just this code.cmd, and we are calling, passing in the install extension argument. So this could be anything. This function could do anything you wanted it to do. Okay. In this specific example, this extension package is specifically for installing and uninstalling VS Code extensions as part of the installation of that package. So why is this important? So why have I said all of this stuff? The reason that this is important is by defining this as an extension package, we can have all of the code that it does the install and the uninstall of that Visual Studio Code extension in one place. So rather than duplicating the code in multiple places, you can put it in one place and then reuse it in every other place that you need it. So if we go back to my Choco list local only, you'll see here that I've got VS Code installed, but then I've also got a number of VS Code extensions. So the way that these Chocolatey packages install the VS Code extension could be using that extension, but they could also be doing it in another way. But by doing it with the extension, it means that we can do it the same way each and every time. So if we go and have a look at something like, if I go over here and look at GitHub, and then look at Git13 OSS, and then look at something in here, let's look at cake.recipe VS Code extension. So that's one of the ones that I'm maintaining. So this is a VS Code extension that I've written, but it is also shipped as a Chocolatey package. So if I look at how it's done within here, and we look at Chocolatey, and we look in tools, then you'll see here that my install script becomes really simple. because I'm just making use of that function that is contained within that extension package. Okay, so I haven't had to worry about where VS Code is installed to. I haven't had to worry about what parameters I need to pass to make that thing work. All I need to pass to it is either the location of the v6 file, which is what I'm deploying here, or the name of the extension that I want to install. This function will actually handle both of those cases, a path to a v6 file or the name of an extension. It'll go off and find it. Now, you might think, well, okay, but that's fine, but this thing here isn't declared anywhere. How can I guarantee that that function is going to be available to my package? This one here, how is this function going to be available to it? Now, the way that you can do that is by declaring a dependency in your new spec file. So if I scroll down here and have a look, then down here, we will see that this package, my package, takes a dependency on that Chocolatey VS Code extension package. So when I walk up to a machine, actually let's just see if it's here. I don't think I have this one installed on here yet, do I? No, I don't. So let's just do this. So let's do this. So let's do Choco install cake recipe hyphen VS Code. Okay, so it's going to reach out to the internet and it's going to find, oh, it is installed. Oh, because I was looking at the VS Code ones. Okay, that doesn't matter. Let's do a force so we can see it happening. Let's see what force does. Okay, so that's going to reach out to the internet and it's going to download that cake recipe VS Code package, the nupkeg, right? And we'll see it doing that there. And oh, okay. So there's it's off now. Maurice in the chat room is saying that we could have done a different one there, but it's already off and running. So already on this machine, I have that Visual Studio. I've said that wrong. I've already have that Chocolatey VS Code extension installed, so that dependency has already been met. Okay. Oh, sorry. I don't always see all the messages that come up in chat. So Kim was also suggesting that I could have used the VS Code AppVeyor extension package. So, what was I saying? Okay, so it's gone off to the internet. It's downloaded. That red text is nothing to worry about. Don't worry about that. That's absolutely nothing to do with anything that we've spoken about. That's completely the extension itself. Don't worry about that. There's an open issue on GitHub to fix that. Okay. So, doing Choco install cake recipe VS Code will reach out to the internet and download that nupkeg. That nupkeg expresses a dependency on the Chocolatey VS Code extension package. That dependency is already met on my machine because I already have that package installed. And then, as I said, every time Chocolatey runs, it will import, or rather export, all the functions within that extensions folder into the current PowerShell execution, right? Sorry, I believe it is actually VS Code and not the extension. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Maurice. Do you want to elaborate on that? No, yes, no, absolutely. It's to do. It's yeah. It literally doesn't matter. It's it in the context of what we're discussing here. It doesn't make any difference. It's red text. It's an error, but the discussion that we're having doesn't matter. Okay, so as I said, every time Chocolatey executes, it is going to take all of those extensions in that extension folder and it's going to export all the members contained within it. As a result, any functions that are expressed in those extensions are then available to me in my Chocolatey install, my Chocolatey before modify, and my Chocolatey uninstall file to reuse those things, right? Now, in theory, if that dependency is already met, it's already on my machine, a package doesn't need to take a dependency on it because it's already there. So Chocolatey would load those functions up each and every time. But in order to ensure that that dependency is met, you would want to express the dependency in your new spec file. Now, the reason that this is useful is, let's imagine the scenario where someone finds a bug. Someone finds a bug in this install VS Code extension PS1 file. They find a bug in this function. So what can happen then is they fix the bug. So they come into this PS1 file, they fix the bug, they publish a new version of that extension package to chocolatey.org or to your internal code repository, whatever. And then in order for downstream packages to make use of it, all they need to do is then change the dependency. They don't have to make that same code change in every single package that would have kind of duplicated all of that code. So it's a way of making code reusable across environments, and it's really, really powerful. In terms of Chocolatey commercial, the commercial versions of Chocolatey, an extension package is actually how we ship the professional bits, the consumer bit, the commercial bits of Chocolatey. They're actually shipped as an extension. So if I go back to this folder here, I don't think I have it installed on this machine, but there would actually be a Chocolatey folder in here, and that is the Chocolatey extension bit. It contains all of the commercial pieces that extend Chocolatey with the additional functionality that is offered as part of the offerings of the paid-for versions. Okay, so the question that becomes is, well, how do I create an extension package? Well, how do I create one of these things? And the answer is, it's really, really simple. So if we go up to chocolatey.org, then there's an entire article showing or explaining how you can do this, including things, naming your extension. And then there's kind of about half of the page is all about how you would want to express a dependency on that. But really what it comes down to is best illustrated in this example. It's literally your top level folder, your package, is the same as it normally would be. It has a new spec file that declares the ID, the title, the version, the owners, the description, the summary, all that stuff. None of that changes. But rather than having a tools folder, which is normally what you'd have for when you're doing an installation of an application, rather than having a tools folder, you have an extensions folder. And in that extensions folder, you need to have a PSM1 file, and that's the thing that will declare the functions that should be exported. And then all you have to do is you create a bunch of functions. Any sort of reusable bits of code that you want to put into this extension package, you just create them as flat files. You have those as entry-level functions that do a task, and package that up, do a Choco Pack, do a Choco Push, and then take a dependency on that package. So this one is only exporting 2 functions, but there are others. So if we go back up to this top level extensions folder, then one of the other ones that's maintained in this repository is this thing called the Chocolatey Core extension. Now this one has a lot more. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It has 8 functions. But the PSM1 file is the same in both cases. All it's doing is exporting each of those functions as part of the module. And again, it's just create a function and put that function in there. And then these functions can then be reused across multiple packages in a sensible way. Rather than duplicating the code in multiple places, you put it in one place. Okay, so this is really powerful when it comes to internal functions. So as part of a business or a part of your environment, you might have a specific way of doing things when it comes to creating a folder structure or connecting to a specific printer or a network share or something that is done a specific way for your packages that you are creating. So rather than doing that code again and again and again within individual packages, you do it once within an extension package, and then you take a dependency on each of those. Okay? Does that make sense so far? Has anything I've said not made sense? If not, speak now. Otherwise, we're going to change topic a little bit to talk about template packages, and then we're going to have a go at what I think I want to do, which is to create a template package for creating an extension. Right? Okay, so Maurice, who requested this talk or this discussion, is saying we should proceed. So let's work on that basis. Okay? So, the next thing I wanted to talk about is templates. So, first of all, what is a template? A template, in Chocolatey parlance, is what is consumed by the Choco new command. Okay? So if I were to walk over to here, that's clearly not going to work. Let's clear the screen. If I walk over here and I do Choco new test package, right? Then what that's going to do is it's going to create a bunch of files, and those bunch of files are going to take the test package, which is the name that I gave to it, and it's going to create it based on that. So if I jump back over to Visual Studio Code, then what we'll see in here is it created a test package.new spec file. It took that name and it put it in as a tag, it put it in as the title, it put it in as the ID. All that's great. It's then stubbed out a Chocolatey before modify with a bunch of text in it. Kim saying, on the topic of templates, I noticed that you was missing one. vscode.template. There's a VS... Well, I did not know about this one. Let's go and have a look, shall we? Let's go off topic a little bit. So what you're saying is, I go over here, and I say id vscode.template. If I look in here, there is. So Kim has created. Or did I? See, that doesn't really mean too much, Kim. So Kim's saying that I should know about it because I approved it. Yeah, that doesn't always work. I approve a lot of packages. So I don't always. And this one didn't register. Okay, so this is interesting. So I want to come back to this actually because this will flow through into what I want to discuss. So there's an additional template package specifically for creating VS Code packages. So that's good. That's good to know. Okay, so this Choco new one stubbed out a bunch of files. So this is what you get from the default Choco new is everything that we being Chocolatey, think that you might want to do with a package, right? It's trying to cover all the bases. It's got lots of information about whether you're installing an MSI, whether you're installing exe, whether you're using the zip file helpers, whether you're doing lots of stuff, right? So there's lots of information and lots of links there to additional documentation that we encourage you to read. And once you become familiar with running that Choco new command, normally what you're probably going to do is you're probably just going to go in here and you're going to delete it and you're going to start typing it because you know what you want to do. Okay, so that's ultimately where we're trying to get you as package maintainers, is to a point where you're comfortable enough that you don't need all of the information that's provided by the Choco new command. Okay, so that's where you would want to start using some additional templates. So earlier at the command line, I ran just Choco new template, a test package, right? But if we go in here and we look at Choco new help command, then what we'll see is that there's an additional parameter that you can pass, which is the... I don't see it as an example, but it is here as a... Where is it? No progress, blah, blah, blah. Template. You can specify the name of a template that exists somewhere, okay? And then you forget what the function you wanted to use was. Yeah, that does help. That does help. So, what you can pass is a template name. Okay, so everything I said before about extension packages being standard Chocolatey packages that do different things on installation. I see what you mean. Okay, sorry. So what Kim's referring to is, let's just you come in here and then you come in here and you delete everything because, well, you know better, and then you can't actually remember that it's install Chocolatey. What was it called again? Yeah, no, exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, Kim. So in the same way that a Chocolatey extension package is a standard Chocolatey package that just does extra things, the template packages are exactly the same. So if I go into my lib folder, then you'll see here that I have a package called MSI template, and I also have another one called zip.template, right? So when Chocolatey finds a package with a template as the last part of the name, in the same way that the extension was the last part of the name, then what it's going to do is it's going to add the contents of that template package into this templates directory. Okay, so right now I've got two templates installed, one of which is MSI and one of which is a zip template. And now that I know about it, let's go over here and see what happens when we do Choco install VS Code.template. Right? So now what's going to happen is that VS Code.template package is going to be downloaded from the internet. It's going to be added to the lib folder to indicate that I have that package version installed. And then what it's going to do is going to take that contents of that nutkeg and extract it into this templates folder. And now I get this new VS Code template that I can use when I'm creating my new package, right? So to show that in a kind of an easier way, if I go back over here to Visual Studio Code, let's go ahead and delete this test package. And let's say we wanted to create a new VS Code package, right? So I'm going to walk up to here and I'm going to type Choco, and then I'm going to run the create new Chocolatey package. So this is the exact same as if I were typing it at the command line. I just get a little bit more user clarity on what I'm doing. So I'm going to click on the new package, and I'm going to say I want to create a new one called VS Code -get13. Okay. So now what I get through Visual Studio Code is it went into that templates folder and it's tried to find me all of the templates I have available. So now I have this VS Code template. So if I click on that, then what it will generate me, or what it will scaffold me out, is a new VS Code get13 package. Was supposed to be on a separate line. I think I missed something there from Kim. I'm not sure what it was referring to there. Or was that something on screen that was meant to be on a separate line? Let's wait and see what he comes back with there, and then we'll carry on. Okay, moving on. So what's been scaffolded out for us this time with the Choco new command is the contents of Kim's VS Code template package. So rather than having a before modify, a readme, verification, license.txt, all he's got in here is the specific things that are needed for installing a VS Code extension. So if we look at the Chocolatey install.ps1 file, then it has limited itself to this is actually a really good talking point. I'm glad I found this template. Okay, so what we've got here is specifically only the things that are needed to install a VS Code extension as a Chocolatey package. So this install VS Code extension function is the one that will be available if we take a dependency on that extension package that we spoke about before. So I'm assuming if I walk up to the new spec, then in here, I'm assuming that I'm going to see, as I do, that there's already a dependency on the Chocolatey VS Code extension package. So because all of those things are now lined up, all I would have to do is provide it the name of the extension that I want it to install. Now, what Kim is showing here is a extension. Oh, this is a very overloaded use of the word extension now. Okay, so what we're talking about here is an extension point for a template package, right? Now, what I mean by that is if you use this syntax here, which is double square brackets and then a variable name it contained within it, then as part of our execution of the Choco new command, then we can pass in additional information to be added to the scaffolded files rather than having to type them in all the time. Okay? Should the template new spec file require a dependency on VS Code? That's a good question. The answer is it's not necessary, but if the extension itself has a dependency on a specific version of VS Code in order for it to function, then you should add that as a dependency into the new spec file. So the answer is it depends, I think, as opposed to it shouldn't. But that is not necessarily I wouldn't have included that in the template, but it is something that you might want to add. So maybe what the template should include is a commented out dependency on VS Code that the user could then choose to delete if they didn't want it. So that might be a point of maybe a suggested change maybe on the template as it is. Okay, but what we were talking about there was the extension point of the template itself. So let's go ahead and delete this. So what we saw was in the install and the uninstall.ps1, we've got this nomenclature that is double square brackets and then an extension ID. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete this guy. Right, and then let's go to the command line this time. So I'm going to clear the screen so we can all see it, and then I'm going to do Choco new, and again I'm going to call it VS Code -get13, and then I'm going to give it a template name, which we know is VS Code. And then what I'm going to do, so Kim's saying, but won't fail the validator if you don't have it, depending on if you push through the Chocolatey community repository. Plans to update this to also include VS Codium. In that case, forcing the VS Code dependency in the template is maybe not the best. Of course, it would fail the validator. So what Maurice is talking about in the chat room is if you were to create a Chocolatey package that was our VS Code extension, and you didn't include the dependency on VS Code, then the validator would fail. Because yes, it would. It would likely fail. I was just thinking about whether the actual code command would actually, but it would fail. But in the same way that we've spoken about extension packages for Visual Studio and extension packages for Chrome, those are maybe default applications that we need to get installed on the verifier instance so that we don't need to do that as part of the actual installation. Because installing Visual Studio each time, just installing extension, is a very, very long drawn out process. For VS Code, it's not as bad, but it's still arguably a potential for speeding up the verifier process. To be honest, I don't know. I know there was a true reason why I didn't add it as a dependency in the template. I just can't remember. Those are the best things, Kim. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Okay, so getting back to this one. If I now run Choco new VS Code -get13, with a template of VS Code, what I can then pass into it is just arbitrary things. So what I saw on there was that Kim had created in those square brackets extension ID. So if I just pass in extension ID of Bob, right, and then I can do something like maintainer name equals Kim, right? So these are arbitrary arguments or options that I'm adding to the to the Choco command, and Chocolatey itself is going to ignore all of those. And what Choco new command is going to do is going to make use of those unparsed arguments and use them when executing the scaffolding of the template. So if I go ahead and run this, then what we should find is, if we've got VS Code get 13 as we did before, but if we look in the new spec file here, we'll see that we've got owners Kim now, which that's one of the arguments that I passed in at the command line. And if we go into the Chocolatey install.ps1, where I had bracket bracket extension ID before, now I've got Bob. And if I go into the uninstall command, again, that square bracket Bob extension ID has been replaced with Bob, right? And Kim's also saying that it's replaced. Oh, look at that. So it's put Bob at the end of the project URL and of the license URL. So it's made some assumptions there about the package ID on the Visual Studio Code Marketplace being passed in as the extension ID, and it's replaced those in those two locations as well. Now, the way that Kim has been able to make that happen is, I'm assuming that this is on your GitHub, Kim. If I go over here to Admiring Worm, did I spell that right? And I look in Chocolatey Packages, I'm assuming that I'm going to have a... It's right there, look. Maybe not that one. No, not that one. Nope, that was the one. No, that's Visual Studio. Hold on. Oh, template, sorry, not extension. So in here, the way that Kim's been able to do that is that in the VS Code new spec template file, he's used that open bracket nomenclature in various places. So there's lots of things that I can pass in here, and those replacements will happen as part of the scaffolding of the Choco new command. So we'll see here that we've got the package name, we've got a package version, maintainer repo, package name lower. So all of these things can be passed in, and you'll see there that that's where the maintainer name one that I passed in came from. So there's a few default ones that you can pass in. So the Choco new command itself has this same scaffolding ability. So if we go over to the instructions on the templating, we can see that there are some default ones that you can pass in, but you can also pass in your own ones, and that's what Kim's making use of here in the VS Code template. So it's this scaffolding ability of templates is really quite useful, again, when you come to scaffolding out or creating lots of similar packages. You can create whatever you want, whether you want to have a Chocolatey install.ps1, whether you don't want to have a Chocolatey uninstall.ps1, whether you want to have a verification.txt file, whether you don't. All of these decisions you can put into your own template, right? So the way that I wanted to show that being used was, if we go over to, the only thing I wish was supported is to provide a default value for those not baked into Chocolatey, into Choco. Help me out there, Kim. Can you give me an example? The only thing I wish was supported is to provide default values for those not baked into Choco. Oh, I think I see what you mean. I think I see what you mean, but let me see what you come back there. Make sure that we're talking about the same thing. So while Kim's coming back, what I wanted to show was, let's imagine the scenario where you as a Chocolatey package maintainer have got to the point where you know the default Choco new template inside out. You don't need to use it anymore because you know exactly what you're doing. So rather than running Choco new -t with your template that you wanted to run, wouldn't it be nice if you could just have your own template as the default? Instead of ending up with extension ID, have it added with different value when one isn't provided by the user. Oh, I see what you mean. Like a fallback value. So if extension, so rather than ending up with square bracket extension ID, it would fall back to a comment maybe, insert extension ID here, rather than the square brackets in the end result. That's interesting. Have you raised an issue about that on the Chocolatey GitHub repository? I think that's actually not a bad suggestion. Don't know how we would do that, but I like the idea. Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe a .fallback file in the Chocolatey, in the extension, in the template package itself, that could then be used to kind of scaffold out the fallback value if one isn't provided. Create a new package based on the URLs. So that's something different, Maurice. We'll come to that, but we're not quite there yet. Okay? But let's imagine, or that works too. Yeah, so defining it in the actual template files itself with the default value, that would work. Depending on how complicated it got. If that default value spanned multiple lines and had, depending on what you're including there. But if it's just a simple, yeah, I could see that working. Definitely worth raising an issue, Kim, to see if that could be supported. I don't see why that couldn't be. It's definitely worth asking the question. What I was trying to get to was, if wouldn't it be nice if running Choco new used our own default template rather than the one that's shipped with Chocolatey itself? And that's totally possible. So if we walk up to this folder, so this Visual Studio Code is looking at the templates folder in the C program data folder. So we'll see here that we've got the 3 template packages that we have. So the newest one is the one that Kim just told us about, which is the VS Code template. But if we just go in here and create a new folder and call it default, right? Then in here, we can create whatever we want, right? So we could create a bob.txt in here. And in here, we could put the square bracket, custom value, right? And then we could go into here and say create a new folder, tools. And then in here, we could create a Chocolatey install.ps1 file. And then in here, we could do a bunch of text, right? And then we could have another one in here that is custom value 2, right? So having put those things in there, if I go back to this one and go ahead and delete this one again, and we'll do it from the command line again. So let's clear this out and let's do a Choco new this time, and we'll call it test package. And then we're going to pass in custom value equals Bill, and then custom value 2 is equal to Ben, right? So Bill and Ben. If I run that now, and I look at what was created for us, rather than having that default template, which has the before modify, the verification, the license, all those files that sometimes we don't need to use, all we've got is that chocolateinstall.ps1 file with the text that I put in there and the token replacement that I added, and then the bob.txt that just had the first token replacement. So hopefully it should be clear that you can quite quickly create templates that are specific to your requirements, and then you can have them as name templates. You can do choco new -t and then the name, or you can completely replace the default template with your own one as well. So what that allows you to do is very quickly create packages that are tailored specifically to your own requirements. So if you know that you only want to use a chocolateinstall.ps1 file and you want to have a certain set of functions available or dependencies within the new spec, all of these things, you can tailor all of those things in those templates and then reuse those templates when it comes to creating things. Okay? So, does all of that make sense? So that, at a high level, is what we refer to as extension packages, and then at a very high level, what we refer to as template packages. So, as Kim's shown, you can create a template package for creating a VS Code package, but the one thing that I thought I was wanting to look into is the ability to create a template package for creating an extension. So what I said an extension was just a PSM1 file with a function that you can export and a new spec file. That's all an extension package is. But I think we should be able to create a template for that to allow us to quickly create extension packages. So extension.template, absolutely, yes. So I'm mixing the two things that we've just spoke about. So there's a little bit of meta stuff going on here. But essentially that's what I'm going to try and create, yes. Now, there's one thing that I think I want to be able to do that I'm not going to be able to do. But we'll come to that. Okay? So, don't mix it with template.extension. No, that indeed would be bad. So let's create one, shall we? Let's go ahead and start creating an extension, a template package specifically for creating an extension, right? So I'm going to go back over. I'm going to delete this test.package. I'm going to delete this guy here, and then I'm also going to delete the default one that I created before because I don't want that one, right? But what I do want is I want to end up with an extension folder in here, but I want to actually package it up first before putting it in there. So we're going back to this one, right? So in here, we're going to create a new package. Oh, I should point out, actually, by the way, right now, so I'm using the Visual Studio Code extension for Chocolatey, and that's what provides all of these commands in the command palette here. Right now, the new command doesn't support adding in the additional arguments that you could pass in. But Kim actually submitted a PR to the GitHub Repository for the Visual Studio Code extension for Chocolatey, which allows you to specify those parameters to be passed in as part of the running the Choco new command. But that's in the 0.80 release of the Chocolatey extension for Visual Studio Code, not in this one that's installed on my machine, which is the 0.70 release. So 0.80 doesn't exist yet, but 0.70 has the simple command, but not the more complicated one that allows passing those things through. So you have to wait for that. Okay? So I want to run the new... I want to scaffold out a new package, and I'm going to call that extension.template. Right? In the same way that Kim had one called vscode.template, and there's one called msi.template, and there's one called zip.template. I'm going to create one called extension.template. Okay? I'm going to say use the default one, and it's going to scaffold me out a bunch of stuff that I don't need. And we're just going to uninstall those things. We're just going to delete those things. So I'm going to delete the to-do text because we don't need that. I'm going to say delete the readme.md because I don't need that. I'm going to delete the entire tools folder because I don't need that. Okay, so let's go back and have a look at, here's one we created earlier. So here's Kim's vscode.template. So I've got a new spec, which is what I've got there, and I want a templates folder. So I'm going to create a templates folder here, and then into here, I'm going to give this a version. So let's just make this version. For the sake of argument, let's call this 100. I'll fill in the rest of the stuff later. Authors, we'll make gep13. Sure. Project URL. We'll fill in all these things later. In order to make it work, we've got enough data there. So we'll replace those things later. This tools folder needs to be templates. So let's change this to be, if I can type, templates, and then the target is going to be templates. Okay. So let's do that. And then within this templates folder, I need what I want to be in the templates folder that gets created for me. So again, if we go back to the one that Kim created, which was over here, so into this templates folder, what do I want? I want there to be a new spec file, and I want there to be an extensions folder, and in that extensions folder, I want a PSM1 file, and I want at least one function. Okay? So, into... and this is where it gets a little bit meta. So in Kim's one, he has a tools folder and a VS Code new spec template file. So I'm going to want one of these because I want it to have a new spec file and I want it to have a extensions folder. So into my templates folder, I'm going to create a new folder called extensions. And into there, I'm going to just create a new file called, let's just call it test.psm1 at the minute. So the contents of that PSM1 file is going to be something similar to the one that we showed before. So in the Chocolatey VS Code extension, Pascal had the concept of a reusable bit of code that's just exporting all of the functions that are contained within this folder. So I can borrow this verbatim, and I'm going to put this into my test.psm1, right? And then, ideally, what I'm going to have in here is at least one function. So let's just call this function a.ps1. And we're going to give that a capital F. It's probably not the best idea. Let's call this Gary A. So that's my function, right? Imagine that's my function. And then what I've said is that this test.psm1 file is going to export all the things that have got a capital letter as a function name. So that's what we've got there. And then what we need is a new spec file called extension dot new spec dot template, right? So then if we go back to see what others have done. So in this template, I'm going to borrow some of this, right? And when I say borrow, what I mean is, am I going to steal it? Which is going to be, I'm going to steal this. And I'm going to put this in here, right? So the only thing that we're not going to want in this one is probably some of the project URL stuff that Kim added specifically for extension ID, but we can come back to that. If the PSM1 file ends in .template extension, won't the name be replaced with the name of the new package? So, okay, so the question that Kim has asked there is what's one of the things I wanted to figure out. Because what I wanted to be able to do is to have exactly that. I want to be able to control the name of the PSM1 file and have it match the name of the package that I create, because that's based on conventions. So if we go back to this one, so here's an extension that is the Chocolatey VS Code extension, and then it has a Chocolatey VS Code PSM1 file. So when they create the so there's a convention here that this is what's used. So that's exactly what I want. So I don't know the answer to that, Kim. So it's worth testing that then, shall we? So let's take this and rename this then. Let's rename this as extension PSM1.template. Now I know the template has to exist there because, okay, so let me go back on this a little bit. So this one here has to be called extension newspec.template because a Chocolatey package can only contain one new spec file. So this new spec file here is the one that is packaging up this thing that we've called the extension.template package. We can't have another new spec file within the nupkeg because that breaks things. So by convention, you have to put .template at the end of it, and then the Chocolatey new command knows what to do with that, right? Now what I don't know is whether it's smart enough to do that for all instances of .template, or whether it's only on the one of those. So we'll find out here, okay? So, I'm at a point where I want to test something. Okay, so I've got I've got my extension.template with a new spec file that is wrapping up everything within that templates folder. That templates folder then has an extensions folder and a template and then some stuff, right? So let's go ahead and give this a try, shall we? Interesting. What's that templates folder in there? I'm getting myself confused now. Hold on. Where did I create this? Extension. Oh, I haven't put that in here. That's the problem. Yes, that's why I'm getting myself confused. So this should look better now. So we've got an extension template that has a new spec file. That new spec file then has the templates folder and then everything contained within it. So if we go and do a Choco pack of this thing, no, we need to go into that folder. So cd into extension template and then Choco pack this guy. So that should give us a nupkeg. And if we look at that nupkeg and what it contains, let's just check that things are there. So let's explore the zip file. So inside that nupkeg, we've got a templates folder, and that templates folder has a extension newspec.template file, and then in an extensions folder it has extension ps1.template and the PS1 file that we want. Okay. So now, if we do a Choco install of extension, let's do that. So extension.template from source, which is dot, then in this folder over here, we should get a new extension folder. Oh, Kim, you've spoilt it. Spoilt it. Let's give it a try anyway. Let's see what this does. So we've got a new extension folder, right? And then it has so it's taken the extension.newspec file, which is what was called template, and it's truncated that to just be extension.newspec. I see. Yeah, it didn't. That's a shame, isn't it? But it also might be okay. Let's see what happens next. Okay, so let's back to here, and let's do a Choco uninstall of extension.template. We don't want that anymore. And that's going to error because that folder doesn't exist anymore, which is fine. Okay, so let's go back to VS Code, and then let's rename this away from being a template file. Rename this one. Okay. So extension.newspec, extension.template, good. And then we've got an extension dot, have I done that wrong? I've just done that wrong. Rename that. That was indeed the wrong file. Glad everyone's paying attention. Let's rename this one to be not that anymore. So we've got extension.psm1, extension blah blah blah. So let's repack that. So let's do delete. And then let's do walk up here, and let's use pack up here instead, and use that one. So we should get a new spec file, which is there. And then I think we can check that again, just to make sure that it's got everything that we expected. So we've got extension, which is extension.ps1. Okay, so let's run that install command again. Right. Chocopack will replace the new spec file if it is already there. What's that referring to? Chocopack will replace the new spec file if it's already there. I don't follow what you're saying there, Maurice. Choco. Oh, I see. It might. I couldn't say. I'm a little bit, let's just say OCD about that. I don't trust anything to replace something, whether it's a copy paste command, whether it's any command, anything on the file system. I normally, if I intend to replace something, I delete it, because at least then I know I've cleared it and it's gone. So if it gets recreated, that's great. I do build and maintain it, but I also don't know every single bit of functionality that it provides. And like I say, from my own sanity, I've run into things out with Chocolatey where I expected something to get replaced when it didn't. So I've always been of the mindset to delete something if I'm expecting it to get recreated. So that's essentially what I did there. I've been burned too many times. Okay, so now that I've got that, right, now I should be able to run Choco New and give it a name. So I want to create an extension called I don't know, GEP 13 core, right? So now I should be able to walk up to here and say new Chocolatey package, and I'm going to call it GEP 13 core, similar to Chocolatey core, and then say, oh, that's not going to work from here, is it? Because I can't specify the template. So I'm going to have to do it from the command line. So here, let's go back up a level, and I'm going to say Choco new GEP 13 core with a name of extension. Now, I don't have any additional parameters to pass in yet, because we haven't. Well, we have, by virtue of the fact that we copied Kim's template new spec file. We could replace those, but we won't in this instance. So let's just see what we get from that. So now we've got a GEP 13 core package that has GEP 13 core.newspec, which seems to be good so far. It doesn't have anything in it. Oh, something broke here. Did I not save that? I thought oh, there's nothing in it. I didn't save it. So that explains why it's not there. So that was this one. Copy. Paste. So now I'm just thinking about something that Maurice has just said. You need to add dot extension to the package name, right? When creating an extension package, I would need to include dot extension on the name. Yes, I would. So this is maybe going to be a little bit too meta for what I'm... Okay, so let's delete this guy. Let's delete that guy. And delete that nutcag. And then recreate that. So let's pack that again. Right? Let's pack that again. Back over it here, and let's just manually delete it. And then lib. And then extension. This one. Let's just delete it manually. Yes. And then let's run. I need to CD back into that. So CD back into there. And then run that guy. Then CD out to that. And then let's do our Choco new command, which was there. And yes, I believe that we're correct. We want to call that extension. So we're creating a new extension package with the extension template. And let's see what we get. So and this is where it's going to be. So the disclaimer that's in the chat room there is, note, you should only delete files from the Chocolatey folder as a last resort. That's probably sound advice, yes. I took a shortcut there because I knew what I was doing. Let's put it that way. Yes, you shouldn't necessarily delete files directly from the lib folder within Chocolatey. Some sound advice coming from the chat room there. I can't argue with any of it. So, the first thing that I don't like is that I've got this tools folder being created, which shouldn't be there because I don't have a tools folder. The second thing is Yeah, you're right. I'm absolutely. You're absolutely correct. So, the first thing that I am not overly happy with here is, let's go and have a look at the extension that we have created. So this is the Visual Studio Code extension package. So let's do a compare and contrast as to what has been created here. Okay, so this is kind of where we're trying to get to. We're trying to create a template that will give us one of these. So in this scenario, Pascal created Chocolatey VS Code .extension. So it has a Chocolatey VS Code .extension.new spec. So this one that we've just created has got get13 core .extension.new spec. So that looks good so far. And it has an extensions folder, which is good. And then within that extensions folder, he has a chocolatey-VS Code.psm1 file. Now I still have an extension.psm1 file. Now ideally, that file would take on the name, or at least part of the name of the package ID, but without the extension on it. Now I don't think the token replacements work on file names. I think you're right, Kim. I think you're right, but so Kim in the chat room is there saying he doesn't think it matters what the name is, and I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't. It will just look for any PSM1 file and export the modules contained within that PSM1 file. But I think we'd like to set a precedence here in terms of convention. So based on what's in the Chocolatey core team packages, which is kind of where we send a lot of people in terms of how to do things right, there is a convention here, for at least on these two extensions, which is that there's the first part is then given as the name of the PSM1 file. So I think that's a good convention to follow, right? So I think the template package for the extension should try and follow that convention. So what I would like to try next, I don't expect that this will work. I don't even expect that this will be legal in terms of the extension template, but let's give it a try. Can I put in here, I probably won't be able to, watch this. Can I put in here, square bracket, and then something. Let me put it in. So can I borrow one of the default template? You see, no, I'm on a Windows machine here. Yeah, you see? I'm not necessarily expecting this to work, but that was the first thing that I had to check. But what is the default? What's it? Package name lower. Is that what it was called? That's what I was looking for, Maurice. Thank you. So let's try and put in here. Rename package name lower. Right? Let's just see what happens. But that's not quite right either, because I don't want the .extension on the end of it. So we'll come back to that. So let's do what I didn't do before. So Choco uninstall extension.template. Right, let's uninstall it properly. Let's go up to this nupkeg and delete it. And we'll delete this guy again as well. And then let's rebuild that to get the nupkeg back again. Right? Back to here. And cd into the extension template folder. And then install the extension again. unable. Oh, hold on, that was the wrong command. It's the install I wanted first. There we go. Okay. So then cd up a level and then run the extension. Let's give it a try. See what happens. So get 13. Didn't work there. If that didn't work, try this exact name. Probably won't work, but worth a try. So what are you saying there? Extension.template.psm1.template. Extension.template. No, I didn't, Maurice. I tried extension.psm1.template. I didn't try extension.template. So I'm willing to give that a try. So rename. So we're going to try extension.template.psm1.template. I'm willing to give that a try. Let's delete that guy again. And delete this guy. And we'll need to repack that. So Choco pack that one. And then cd into that folder. Oops, no, cd into temp. And then extension.template. I'm going to do a Choco uninstall of extension.template.template. And then I'm going to install that one again. Okay. And then I'm going to cd out of this folder. And then I'm going to run the Choco new command again using that new extension. Let's have a look and see what we get this time. No. Okay. So I wonder. So there's potentially a modification required there to the Choco new command to allow the renaming of files based on parameters that are passed in. I'm trying to think. I think you're right, Maurice. I think you're right, but I may run it past my boss first of all to see if there is some thing I'm missing. So let's put this back the way it was. So let's rename this again. Let's drop the template off the end of it. Is there a boss in the room? No, there's not in any way, shape, or form. I'm sitting here all by myself in a green screen, and of course, I think I've introduced him before. I have Gary the Tiger here as well. Say hi, Gary. Hi. That's a long story. Maybe not one for today. Let's go back to making this extension.psm1. Because what I would like to be able to do is there's two things I'd really like to do here. The first is I'm so used to not being my own boss. That's the thing. I have two daughters, both of whom don't treat me as the boss, and I have a wife who I know I'm not the boss of. So yeah, I guess I can be my own boss tonight. So what I would like to be able to do, let's delete this again. One is I'd like to name this PSM1 file based on the convention, which is what's been passed in as the package ID. And the second one is I'd like to provide an additional parameter that is the name of the function that the first function that I'm creating within my extension package. So that's something I'll come back to Rob about to see if that's something that's possible. But the other thing I'm interested in is that tools folder being created, because I don't actually want that tools folder. So is that something that the other extension packages, do they both have a tools folder? Is that, see, no. Well, that's the template. The one I'm thinking about is on here. So this template has a tools folder, and the MSI one's going to have a tools folder as well, isn't it? Oh, that's not one. The MSI template is going to have a tools folder too. Okay, so we need to figure that out. So I'm going to take a note of that one. So before we do much further, let's have a little things to talk to Rob about. Template. Why tools folder being created? What else have we said? We said we wanted to ask about renaming of files based on convention. We also spoke about fallback values for scaffolded variables. Scaffolded variables. Okay. Did we speak about anything? I've been trying to figure out in the code. Which includes what is it? He's using old-fashioned analog typing. Let's have a look at the code. So let's have a look. So let's. Kim's got on ahead of me a little bit, and so yeah. I this is my notebook. I do things old school. I write stuff down, because I like to do what's called sync to paper. So I have my to-do list and things on a bit of paper, because it's much more tactile to scrub something off when something's done. I guess I'm a bit old-fashioned that way. So what are we doing here? So where are we? This is in the generate function, and the generate function is going to be called from the so the template service, blah blah blah, generate tools document. Oh, you have already. Okay, so let's write that down. So that's 1814. Okay. Oh, look at that. See, we don't want that. That's line 73 is always creating a tools folder, even though we don't want one. Speak to Rob about that one. So now it's looking for override the values, get properties, set tokens, token values after merge. Else, if null or white space template command, template name, or okay, that's fine. So then we're going to use default or the name. So yeah, you're in the right code here. Generating package for custom template. So that's what we would have seen. Generating package from custom template. So we saw that part coming out. Then for each file system, get files in the template path. Package file location is okay. File extension, get extension, not equal to new spec. So this is where there's special handling for. You see. So that's the special handling specifically for the new spec file, which we treating template file as binary instead of replacing templated values. Templated binary extension, which is what this thing here was. Templated binary extension. Oh, I see. Okay. So you have the possibility to include things in that template. So if you needed to include zip files and MSIs, you can put them in your template, and then they won't be replaced in any way, shape, or form. And otherwise, it's generating file from template, passing in the tokens, the file, and where it's going to. So generate file from template is then doing, so template is a string, and then it's writing that with file location, which is what's being passed in. Okay, so we don't have any opportunity at the minute to change that file name, which we might want to. So I wonder, renaming of files based on convention. We might be able to do something there. I'm just wondering whether we could. With extension. Yes, exactly that. So yeah, and it always enforces UTF-8. Don't know if that's what you want. Template encoding. It is being passed in there, but the fact that it is configurable suggests that. Press the wrong button again. Generate file from template. So I suspect that it's always UTF-8s. So again, I've said before on this stream, I don't fully understand what the difference is between a UTF-8 and a UTF-8 bomb encoded file is. I genuinely don't. So that's an argument to have via an issue. Yeah, encoding of new spec using UTF-8, not UTF-8 bomb. Line 1 through 7. Yep. No. So yeah, that's something that to come back to. The one that I wasn't. I mean, we can talk about that some more. But I mean, what I was hoping to achieve tonight was some understanding on what I could do within the template to allow this extension.psm1 file to have a different name. And it looks like that's not possible. So I can take that away and think about that one. I was able to do pretty much everything else that I wanted to achieve, which was to. Although if I put that's in the wrong place now. Let's delete that again. There we go. Here's the link to guidelines regarding the character. Let me bring it up. Let's have a look and see what the guidelines say, shall we? Character encoding. Use UTF-8 character coding for the new spec and the PS1 files. If you don't respect this rule, some characters are not displayed. Do not save your new spec with a byte order mark. PowerShell. Oh, I see what you're saying. So, hold on. So, okay, let me get this straight in my head so I can relay this on. So currently, UTF-8 is being used on. Hold on. I'm so confused. So it's saying UTF-8 character encoding for new spec and PS1s. And then here it's saying PowerShell scripts need to be UTF-8 with BOM. So which one is it? Surely those two statements are contradictory? Or what? Or how am I reading that? Am I reading that wrong? Someone tell me I'm reading that wrong. BOM is neither required nor recommended because it can lead to several issues. So PowerShell needs to have the BOM. New specs do not. So this part here is incorrect. So I think this part needs to be rewritten, right? But what we're saying is that back on this code that we were looking at, 137, here, passing in UTF-8 for everything is potentially incorrect. And passing at UTF-8 for all of these ones is incorrect as well, because there are PS1 files in here. But PS1 files need UTF-8 BOM. Won't be read correctly. It needs UTF-8 encoding. If the PowerShell scripts don't use BOM and UTF-8 characters is used, it won't read correctly. And yeah, and what we're talking about here is, well, hold on then. Hold that thought a second. So if we come up here and say Choco new test package using the default template, is what we're talking about, not this test that's up here. So do not remove this UTF-8 if blah doesn't appear as Greek uppercase omega. So it's got UTF-8 with BOM here. So that's correct, right? So that template used UTF-8 BOM, and the PS1 files have got UTF-8 with BOM as well. Only PowerShell scripts should be BOM. I love that you're shouting at me. So, okay, so I'm on the Chocolatey before modified.ps1 file just now, and it's got UTF-8 with BOM, and we're saying that that's good. Yes or no? I'm waiting for something else in the chat room. Beautiful. However, we're saying that this test package.newspec has got UTF-8 with BOM, and that is incorrect. This should just be UTF-8. Is that correct? That's bad. Right. So what is this? What is line 18 here actually testing then? Because if it was bad, then surely this should not be appearing. Or is this test not testing it? Is this only testing for UTF-8 as opposed to a UTF-8 with BOM? I'm waiting for another message coming up, and then I'll move on. Okay, so it's just the test for UTF-8, not whether it's UTF-8 with BOM. Okay, so take a note of that. UTF-8 with BOM is bad for new spec files. Okay. Isn't just reading file ASCII. Okay, fine. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I want to do in terms of kind of finalizing this extension template package. So in order to do that, I have to go back and probably make some changes to Choco New. But I think the premise of having an extension template package is still a sound one. And we can get close, but there's a couple of things in Choco New that I think has to be looked at, because like I say, it's always creating that tools folder, which is incorrect. And I want to be able to rename the files based on a convention. So I'll take those away and think about those and speak to Rob about them. And we can discuss that further. Oh, hold on. Kim's found another. Oh, hold on. There's issues coming out all over the place now. Hold on. So Kim's linked to this issue, which is Choco New should output a new spec in UTF-8. Okay, so that is 1364. Okay. Oh, there's a PR for it already? Oh, okay. Oh, okay then. Why is there two? Open. Here, let's have a quick look. Oh, that's not a fork. Who knows? Oh, I see. Files changed. 11 files changed? Really? That's probably why this PR hasn't looked at. Seems to be doing a lot of stuff in here that wouldn't necessarily be expected. So, yeah. Okay, so I can take a look at that one, though, and try and figure out what's going on there. And the second one is this one. Is this about the tools folder? Has my work here been done already as well? New spec created by Choco New. Oh, that's just another. Is this a bug? Description above based on. Okay, fine. So there's two issues. There's two open issues for that one. 529. Okay, fine. I can take a look at that. I will add that to my backlog to have a look at. So, open question to Maurice. Did this stream cover any questions, concerns, or general nice to knows about templates and extensions? Oh, hold on. There's an XKCD to be linked to. Hold on. Let's stop everything and look at XKCD, because XKCD is the fountain of all knowledge. I probably won't get this, so let's have a read. And once again, it's kind of lost on me. I'll be honest. It's all kind of lost on me. Yeah. I'll be honest. Yep. I'm gonna laugh, but I yeah. Moving on. So going back to my question, Maurice, was there any other questions that you had about extension packages or template packages and how they relate to Chocolatey in general, where you would use them and why you would use them? I know you mentioned earlier about calling Choco new by passing in a file. That's certainly possible. You can derive information about a new package by using the file, the source file itself. That is, I think I'm right in saying that that's a commercial only option to Choco new. People using the open source version of Chocolatey wouldn't be able to do that, I don't think. Okay, hold on. We've got another XKCD on the go. Hold on. This one is a better fit for Gary. Hold on. I'm not sure how to take that, Manfred, but let's run with it. No. Watching Unicode people try to get them internet chaos, human knowledge, with consistent yeah, that's probably a little bit more up my stream. Are you just a do you know all the XKCDs? Is you seem to go with that one quite quickly. Okay, so Maurice, I'm taking that yip as that answered all your questions, or you still have questions? Now's the time. That's right. Which one? Okay, so who can remember the number of little bobby tables on XKCD? XKCD little bobby tables. There we go. That's the one that I always think is hilarious. This one. Yeah, there we go. That's the one that I like. I think it's hilarious. Indeed. The amount of code that's out there that still doesn't is quite surprising, though. Sometimes depressing. Okay, so going back, final time, Maurice. Have all your questions been answered about extensions and templates, or do you want to ask anything else? If not, I think we're probably at a natural stopping point because there's not too much more that I can do or elaborate on without questions. Thank God for entity frameworks. Oh, that's a controversial one there. Let's have a look. So Manfred's saying that this is the best XKCD ever. A crypto nerd's imagination. Our eagle plan is filed. Yeah, probably. I quite like that one. That's quite good fun. I'll give you that one. Okay, so before we descend into too much digging into XKCD, I'm going to probably draw this to a close. I will follow up with Rob about some of the questions that I have about templating in general, because I would like to get an extension template out there, because I think it would be useful. If there are any other suggestions on where templates could come into play, I do like the idea of adding more of those templates into the core team packages repo so that they can kind of be governed a little bit. Governed's probably too strong a word, but right now in the core team packages repo, we have a couple of extensions, but we don't currently have any templates. So the two templates that are out there, which is the MSI template and the zip template, they exist under Rob's repository directly. I'm actually tempted to move those, unless there's any objections, into the core team packages repo, and then invite the creation of other templates. So we might have an EXE template, or we might have a MSU template, or we might have lots of other templates that could be used that essentially take what's in the Choco new default template and break it up into more manageable chunks for individual templates. So I'm seeing lots of suggestion that that's a good idea. So I'm going to be I'll do that then. I'll get those moved over. And so if there are any, because I know we've got quite a few package maintainers on the chat room just now. So if there are, if you've got your own templates, so obviously Kim had that VS Code template, which is an ideal one. That could, if there are any others that you think are useful, and because it's all about encouraging good best practices and conventions, all that sort of stuff. So if there are any others that you think would make sense to exist, if they don't exist, we could get them created. And like I say, I think the core team packages repo is a good location for that. So I'll take the ones that Rob currently has and make sure that they are that there aren't any issues with them. And if they're not, we'll get them moved over. And actually, because there's the default template. I'd like to think that that's not currently still the one that's... it can't be, because it won't have everything in it. Oh, interesting. I can't imagine that's still where it's pulling it from, but I'll have to check on that one. Sorry, something went over my head. Oh, I see what you guys did there. I'm sorry, I've caught up with you now. Was it still a general... was it an affirmative to move those templates? I was taking those all as affirmative to my question. But I see what you guys now did there. And I didn't. I went straight over my head, I'll be honest. I've got nothing. I've got nothing. So yeah, I'll get those templates moved, and if there are any other templates that you think need to exist, I think we could work together to get those, get them created. Like I say, there's multiple things that could be done, and I think it would be a good central collection to add those in, so that if you are using the Chocolatey VS Code extension, when you do that new package, you'll start to see those all coming up in here. So we could have, like I say, zip, MSI, EXE, MSU, VS Code, Google, Chrome, like for a Chrome extension even. I know Bill Curran does a lot of those. It could be useful to have a template for doing that. So yeah, there's lots of options in terms of what we could create as template packages. And in addition to what you would do internally within an organization or a company, having templates specific for those, there's a lot that we could make into community-driven templates as well. Okay, so that for me then is cake templates. Don't need to be packages. Cake templates don't need to be packages. Copy URL. Yeah, I think what Maurice is linking to there is the fact that he has got Oh, as in, oh, interesting. So Bill's actually got a lot of templates already. Interesting. Interesting. So let's see what he's got in here then, shall we? Oh, but these are not templates. Yeah, they're not templates. He must just copy and paste these. He must copy and paste these when he's creating a new package as opposed to doing Choco new. So, the font template, that's a good one, because the font template, there's an extension package now for creating fonts. So that would be an easy add, a good add, in the same way that we have the VS Code template that Kim has. The font template, I suspect, is just taking a dependency on the package that Bill created. Yeah, Chocolatey Font Helpers extension. So that would be an easy one to create a template from as well. So we should maybe reach out to Bill and see if he wanted to convert some of these into actual template packages. Yeah, he created it a while back. There was actually 2 font extensions created around about the same time. One from Anthony Mastream. I forget how to pronounce his second name, but both he and Bill created one around the same time. And Bill's one was first, basically, but it was essentially doing the exact same thing. So if we have a look at here, then that won't find anything. Why did it not find anything? Huh. Should have found something. Packages. Yeah. So it just has the PS1 files that come from Microsoft embedded directly into the package. So it's then made available via the PSM1, as we spoke about. So if anyone's creating a font, it makes sense to take a dependency on this extension. So again, you're not duplicating those scripts in multiple places. So that would be an easy one to add a template for straight away to make use of that. Okay. So yeah, lots of ideas there. I'm going to take a note of those ones as well. Bill's templates to actual templates. Okay. So this upcoming Friday's stream will likely be more on updating Cake add-ins to use the latest version of Cake and Cake.recipe. The Monday's stream, if I can get it arranged. Is that another? I should definitely make a point of that. So thank you very much, Manfred. I understand that is a cheer that's just come through. I don't have. I still haven't set up my Streamlabs OBS to announce on the actual stream overlay here that a cheer has just come through. But I appreciate that you have just done that, and thank you very much. As I think I've mentioned, I am now a Twitch affiliate, which allows me to accept cheers and subscriptions as well. How that all translates into anything, I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't read into the details of what that actually means. But thank you very much for the cheer, Manfred. I appreciate it. I guess someone should take on the 2 requested packages for fonts then. Maybe. Let's have a look and see what Kim is referring to there. So I'm assuming that on the packages request repo that there will be some fonts in here, is what you're referring to. So if we have a look in here and search for font, then there is a Lato font and a Flux font. That, I think, is what Kim is referring to there. Yeah, I mean, those should be relatively simple to create now, because there is an extension package that we can take a dependency on for those ones. So assuming that you can source the font files themselves, they should be simple enough to add in. Yeah. As I mentioned on the last stream, next Monday night stream, if I can get it arranged, will have Rob himself. Rob, the creator of Chocolatey, may well be on the stream. It's not confirmed yet, but we've spoken around doing a stream of reviewing a PR for Chocolatey, so you can kind of see the other side of the fence in terms of what's looked for in a PR, doing a PR review, and then showing how we would ultimately pull that code into the Chocolatey code base. So that would be, hopefully, that would be an interesting topic. And we will indeed have the boss in the room that time. So if it all goes to plan, he'll be up there in the corner, floating up there to oversee how things are working and what we're doing here. That kind of came about from both Rob, Paul, and Stephen were at PowerShell Summit last week, and during PowerShell Summit there was a side session on streaming because quite a few of the PowerShell guys and girls are doing streams, live coding streams related around PowerShell, and I think Rob liked what he heard and wanted to get involved in terms of showing some more of the behind the scenes of what Chocolatey is, how it works, and from an open source point of view, how we can get involved. So that's kind of where that came about. Did he watch any of the streams? I honestly don't know. I know he's at least listened into a couple of streams that I've done. Whether he watches them back and has taken notes about everything that's been said, I couldn't say, Maurice. We might have to behave. We'll have to see. So that's potentially going to be next Monday's stream, and in the absence of that, I'll pick up another topic. There's at least one thing I want to jump into, but I don't want to say too much about that yet because I'm aware that I've still got some other open stuff that I need to finish, and I don't really want to take on another project just yet. But there's a couple of things that I would like to look into. One is involving Azure functions and how they could be used to do some pretty nifty stuff, potentially with webhooks. That's all I'm going to say on it. I think that could be an interesting project if we could dig into that. So if that's of interest to you, keep an ear out for that one. But yeah, if that's all I have. So thank you everyone for attending. And if there's any other comments, now's the time. Otherwise, I am going to sign off for the evening and go and see what's happening in the house. So thank you again to Manfred, who is currently let's bring that up. Let's just see let's do a little bit of meta stuff going on here. Let's see myself on the stream. Let's see how this works. Let's make sure that that's commented, that's muted. I think we should be able to see. There we go. So Manfred and both Maurice and Manfred are up here on the leaderboard. That is in terms of cheers that have been given on the stream. So I appreciate that you guys will be up there for the duration. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yeah, stream inception. So I'm going to close this before I get too many. But I just wanted to point out that your contributions have been noted, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. Okay, but with that, I am going to close it all down. So talk to you all on Friday if you're here. Thank you very much.